Okay, my name is Julie Matlin. I just wanted to start out with a little story. About 15 years ago, I worked on a film with Ben Kingsley, or Sir Ben Kingsley, I guess. And I noticed after a couple of days of filming that he would always stay on set. Even during scenes he wasn't in, when most actors were going back to their trailer and relaxing, he would sit in his chair and watch the entire scene being filmed. And I didn't understand this at all. This is not typical actor behavior. So after a couple of weeks of this, I got really curious, and I said to him, why are you doing this? Why don't you go back to your trailer and relax and, take some time off? And he looked at me and he said, I'm scared that if I'm not around, people will start talking and realize that I'm drastically overpaid. Now, he was probably joking, but that statement stuck with me for the past 15 years. So I'm here today to talk to you about imposter phenomenon, which is sometimes mistakenly called imposter syndrome. But it's basically an affliction in which you don't believe you got to where you are in life based on your own merit and your own capabilities. You think there's a discrepancy between the way you see yourself and the way that you perceive others see you. You feel like a fraud, you're just waiting to be found out. You attribute all success you have to external factors like luck, timing, the support of people around you. And you have the feeling that you've really fooled everybody into overestimating your own ability. I suffer from imposter phenomenon, and yes, there are instances in my life where I'm intentionally self-deprecating, usually in conversation or in my blog, if any of you have ever read me. But that really is to do with my personal life. When it comes to my job, my career, what I do every day, I feel like a fraud every single day when I walk into the office. And the crazy thing about this is I'm safe now, but about an hour ago, my boss was actually in the room about to listen to this presentation about how I'm overpaid. As a social media strategist for the National Film Board, and I put this up here so that my boss would know I was actually working while I'm here. Thank you, NFB, for sending me. As a social media strategist, coming to this conference, I felt I had to get up to you today and talk to you about something really smart. And when the call for topics came, I was in the middle of reading this book by Clay Shirky. Here Comes Everybody. Anyone read this book? Okay. So I thought I would come here today and talk to you about power law distribution. But every time I sat down and tried to put together the presentation, I was completely paralyzed. I thought, what could I possibly say? Who the hell am I to get up in front of this room of really bright people and talk to you about power law distribution, right? What could I possibly have to offer that you don't already know? But here's the thing. Let me ask something. Raise your hand if you know what power law distribution is. Okay, that's not even like a third of the room. Okay, so this is a thing. When you have imposter phenomenon, you're so focused on what you don't know that you fail to recognize what you do know. And the thought that I might know something that you don't know never even enters my imagination. It's just a completely foreign concept. So in my research for the topic on imposter phenomenon, I discovered that there are people who feel like they're phonies all the time. But there are also phonies among us. People who adopt self-deprecation as a social strategy. And at the opposite end of this spectrum, there are people who suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. And these are people who are completely unaware of their own incompetency and think they are far smarter than they actually are. The term imposter phenomenon was coined by two psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, back in 1978, after one of their graduate students confided to them, I feel like an imposter here with all these really bright people. At first they thought it was something that afflicted women mainly, and they were very careful to call it the imposter phenomenon and not imposter syndrome, because they didn't want, they didn't want it to be one more way to pathologize women. But as their study continued, they realized that it affected an equal number of men. It was found most commonly in academics, namely graduate students. Personally, I think it applies equally well to mothers and social media strategists. So, as I said before, I suffer from imposter phenomenon. And I knew I suffered from it the moment I heard about it, which was actually only a few months ago. And there's even a test you could take online that will gauge how much of an imposter you feel like. And the theory is the higher your score, the more likely it will impede your everyday life and impede your chances for success. So how did I score on this test? I'm constantly worried about being discovered. I'm terrified of speaking in meetings for fear that everyone all at once are going to turn around and say, how the hell did you get to be here? I mean, really, think about this. 3 years ago, I started at the NFB as a web writer. I was writing film descriptions. And now 3 years later, I'm a social media strategist. I mean, seriously. It just, I don't know. It freaks me out. Again, social media strategist. Yeah. And the thing is, how am I even supposed to trust my intuition or even my track record when I work in a field where there are so many experts, who are out there working? And when there are this many experts out there, it's really fucking daunting, and it's very easy to feel like a fraud all the time. But you know what? Some of the smartest people you know might suffer from imposter phenomenon. Some of the most famous people do too. Michelle Pfeiffer, we all know Michelle Pfeiffer, right? She has been quoted as saying, I still think people will find out I'm not really very talented, I'm not really very good, and it's all been a big sham. And this is after 3 Oscar nominations and 6 Golden Globe wins. And it really makes me think back to good old Sir Ben. And would you believe that somebody that I know very well, when I told him about my presentation today, said, that shoe fits me big time too. But men are just arrogant enough to mitigate it. Now, I'm classy enough not to say who said this, but I will say that he's in the room. Sorry. What it all boils down to, this whole thing, is the inability to internalize success. We simply cannot believe that we got to where we are based on our own merit, using our own resources, that it had nothing to do with luck, timing, or any external support. And for as long as we suffer from this affliction, we're our own worst enemy. Because yes, it does give us, a certain degree of humility and a healthy dose of self-doubt, but it also impedes us from taking risks and achieving our full potential. And that's why, for now, I'll be sure to stay within everyone's line of sight, like my good friend Sir Ben, so that, no one has a chance to talk and realize that I'm drastically overpaid. Thanks.